Focuses on the game day aspects of sports and also the business, policy, legal, and sociological aspects of sports. Tune into Sports and Stuff and listen to my interviews with athletes, authors, administrators, politicians, and others.
Oh, yes, it's ladies' night.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not trying out new wigs and cocktail dresses, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Yo,
what up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. Gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat.
Street Beat.
Tony.
Welcome this evening to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B, and we're going to be talking about the beat of the city, and that would be Lil Big Fella. Lil Big Fella. Well, let me add some more context to that. We are going to have a conversation with Chukundi Salisbury, a recent political candidate, and then also a comic book creator, and he's created a comic book called Lil Big Fella. Now, if the name Chukundi Salisbury rings a bell, yes, he just ran for 37th Legislative District Position 2 in a race that was contested and run by both candidates well, and that's how you may know him. But Big Fella, now that's the Little Big Fella, and we'll talk to Chukundi about this and see if Little Big Fella has anything to do with Big Fella that we know. So if you go back, even on the show, if you listen to the debate, I think the first time that I talked to Mr. Salisbury, and this was a debate, and we're talking, and I think I called him Kun. And I said, oh, well, that's because, we've known each other for a long time and goes back to the community. And then, so Kun, if you know Kun, or if you're listening to Chukundi and you're saying, well, Kun, I see how that makes sense. That's actually short for KUN LUV, which is actually short for DJ KUN LUV, which gets us into a whole nother spectrum. And I did talk to Chukundi earlier, and although we are going to talk about the comic book, I haven't had a chance to congratulate him on his run and ask him if he would be okay at sharing with us about the process of running for office and what that was like. And but mainly, we're going to talk about Lil Big Fella and the comic book that Chukundi created. Having said that, Chukundi, Kun, DJ KUN LUV, Big Fella, welcome to the program, man. How are you?
Man, I appreciate you having me, Tony. It's actually good, to just be myself, just chill out on your show and talk to you one-on-one. So, yeah, I'm feeling great right now.
Well, awesome. I do want to, first thing I want to get into is the comic book, Lil Big Fella. This comes after, man, you've been running for office and just been very busy in all of the things you do. And the comic book, tell us about the comic book, Lil Big Fella. I don't have anything to show right now. I could have put something up. Maybe, Dan, you can put something up. We have it here. But it's a young African-American looking man. And it's apparently, it looks like it's about his adventures.
Yeah, basically, Tony, I came up with the concept of Lil Big Fella a few years ago. And as you mentioned, I'm pretty busy. So I just kind of worked on it here and there. I always kept the vision alive, and finally got all my paperwork and everything straight in March of earlier this year. And then I was in the midst of the campaign. So, I wasn't able to really launch the comic book, but basically it's about coming of age stories, classic stories, of Little Big Fella and his friends, and learning when it's time to do the right thing, which is all the time, right? It's always the right time to do the right thing. But of course, we all run into challenges and crises, and sometimes crisis of conscience. But in this particular series of books, everybody finds redemption. And it's a children's book, of course, right? And so of course young people will enjoy it, but it's just like any other classic stories, but it has obviously it has an urban twist on it, and also things that are ripped out of our current society, such as police accountability, that right there in itself is a huge issue. So yeah, it's a coming of age thing, and it's also about representation. One of the things that led me to do this comic book is, I've been doing the African American Males Weekend for years now at Camp Orkila, and I've been doing the African American Females Weekend at Camp Coleman, and I've been a Black Santa for years. And the thing is, I just haven't seen the representation. Representation matters. I've got one of my favorite pictures is where I had a young person at the Black Santa event that was so excited to see a Black Santa. And he had drew a picture of me and wanted, and his mother sent it to me. Like, it was such a life-changing moment for this young person to know that Santa could be Black, right? And so representation matters, even the smallest parts. And so all of those things led me to do this comic book, and I finally dropped it. And so here we are.
All right. Little Big Fella. How old, or is that something that, this is the premiere issue, or is there a specific age of Little Big Fella that you can reveal to us right now?
The kids in the comic, they're in middle school. That's one of the things I found is in working that's where the rubber meets the road right now.
So little big fella's like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Right in there.
11, 12, 13.
11, 12, okay.
It could be around there, sixth, seventh grade, maybe late fifth grade for some folks. And so a lot of parents that are getting the comic book and reading it with their young folks, I've heard of folks enjoying it as early as 7. 6 and 7.
Is there an age that when you were writing this, that you geared it towards, where you're saying, I want this age group in particular, or again, is it something that's again kind of universal, or were you focusing on, like, hey, this is my target market? I'm really
focused on that age group, right? And that's the age group that I zeroed in when I started doing the African American Males Weekend. What we found is that ages 6 and 7 and 8 were really too young to come by themselves. And we started zeroing in on 10, 11, and 12 as young people that they're kind of coming of age, and they're hanging around the older kids, but they're still really silly themselves. And, in 13, 14, and 15, as you might know, Tony, they're nothing like the 13, 14, and 15-year-olds of when I was a young person or when you was a young person. And so, yeah, I really wanted to gear it towards that 5th and 6th grade or late 7th grade, those young people that are coming out of elementary school and going into middle school, and it's a whole new world.
My guest again is Chukundi Salisbury. Yes, that is the Chukundi Salisbury that recently ran for 37th District Representative position 2. This is about the book, coming out right afterwards, Little Big Fella, the premiere issue, The Adventures of Little Big Fella. And again, let me tie these two things together, Kun, if they're meant to be that. So you were known as Big Fella, and you had a clothing line and everything. So for anyone who may not be familiar with that, okay, is Little Big Fella you? Are you Little Big Fella?
No, you know what? To tell the truth, I modeled the Little Big Fella off of my son, Little Chukundi. And the character is similar to him. He doesn't have. I would say some of the things that happen to Little Big Fella are he responds in a way similar to how my son would, but not exactly. I mean, he's a completely different person, but the look, if you will, is similar to my son. It's not meant to be me at all. In fact, I might cast myself in the next issue as the father. We'll see. But we're working on a couple of other issues right now. So yeah, but that's my son. You could say it could be my son.
Okay. Well, for people who know you, we got to clear these things up.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, because what, to tell the truth, Tony, there are some people out there that would say, okay, well, that's a little big fella, because those that have known me for a long time, they'll know that, I lost over 130 pounds. I was 418 pounds at my heaviest. And, at the beginning of this campaign, my pre-COVID weight, I was down to 285. Right. And so I've lost a lot of weight. And so people started calling me as well. Hey, you're not big fella anymore. You're little big fella. Right. And so I've been celebrating that, not needing the extension on the airplane anymore, being able to ride the rides at the, at the Puyallup Fair. And, so just a whole life is opened up when you lose that weight, just the things that you can kind of access. So I did embrace the term little big fella, but the comic itself is really more about kids. It's not meant to be me at all.
All right, we are going to talk more about that, Mr. Salisbury. Again, that's what we're. But man, you said you didn't mind, bro. How are you doing, man? After all of that.
After the campaign, you know what? It's funny, right? Because I called Kirsten Tally Harris the other day, just to let her, and congratulate her on her win. And yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like, so now last week, this time, I keep it real. And I was just telling some brothers today, because they've got this 1,000 Black men call that they do. And they talk about, just men, and specifically Black men, being able to express their feelings. And I told people that I actually kind of, hit a little tear. I got a couple teardrops last Wednesday, because I was sad. I really was sad. I really wanted to win the election. Like, we played to win. You know what I mean? And so, when I didn't win, I really thought that we could win. And I mean, obviously it's politics, but we, like I posted, I felt like we ran a race that we could be proud of. And most certainly, I might do something in the future. We'll see. But on last Wednesday, I was sad for a couple of days there. And then I pulled out my comic book and got back to work, and let's go. You know what I mean? So I'm great right now, but I will acknowledge the fact that last week, by myself, I did kind of break down a little bit and was sad about it, because, anybody that says that if you work on something for 9 months straight, every day, like we worked on that campaign every day. We're out, waving signs. You're doing all these endorsement questionnaires. You're doing all of the forums and this and that. And I mean, there's a lot to it. The calls to raise the money. We raised a lot of money in our campaign. Although Kirsten Tally Harris raised a lot more than us. We raised over $150,000, and that's a lot of money for somebody like me and the friend group that I have, network that I have. So a lot of people, we had a lot of people give $5 and $10. So that was a grind too. That's one of the things that people don't know about running for office as the candidate. You think that you're going to be doing all these other things, but you spend the majority of your time raising money. And so, it's a grind. It really
wow.
is.
And that, and the other, if there's something else you could, how are you doing is one thing, but the other thing is you decided to do this. Everybody doesn't run for office, and you kind of, segued into that. And so, while you were talking about that, just kind of, break it down for us, if you will, in a very basic way about what it means to run for office. One of the amazing things that we saw was we had a number of Black people who were running for office in a number of different counties. We did a whole series of forum on that, sponsored by the Urban League.
Right.
But, man, a lot of people, again, know you personally. Now, again, if you're listening and you're going, well, I know in my Chukundi Salisbury office, you're also seeing another side. We're going to get back to the adventures of little big fella here.
Oh yeah.
But for people,
what I would say, Tony, just in real simply terms, I think, obviously I threw my name in the hat. I got my Russell Wilson on. When I heard that Eric Pettigrew was going to retire, I had been down to African American legislators. So I've been around politics for a long time, just as an activist, as a person that wanted to educate people. I take kids down to the Capitol so they can meet legislators and see, like I liked bringing young people down to see Eric Pettigrew. And they can see, a black man, and he's big like me. And I like bringing kids down there. So I've always been going to the Capitol and
now I'm gonna stop you right there for a second, and I want you to continue because this is a critical point. In order to engage like this politically, you were engaged. Everyone's not engaged, in that way, and it sounds like you were doing that. How important is that? To be in the position to understand, okay, this is how I intend to effect change. That engagement that you're talking about is you're saying with us, I was already doing this. I was already doing this. I was already doing it. How critical is that?
Well, I think it's real critical. And and my brother always tells me I tell too long of stories for media. But what I would say, Tony,
we got a little time.
Well, what I would say is the fact is that, and I think most people, at this point, and that's why you're seeing so many kind of candidates and grassroots folks understand now that the route to change is through policy. Okay, so we most certainly, can go out and protest and the like, right? But oftentimes when you have so many people mad in the street, and they say, well, Kun, I can't believe this officer is on paid administrative leave. We need to burn this thing down. No, we don't. We need to change the policy. And renegotiate the contracts, right, and change the law, so we're in a better position to write better policy, right? And so I think people who have been around things like this for a long time, they understand that we got to change laws, okay? And that's why I ran. I was like, okay, well, this is a great position to go down and try to change some laws, right? Because we've been mad a long time. Every year it's a hashtag about somebody, but we got to change the law. And I think that not only me, but other people got excited. And folks are understanding that we have to be more engaged, and that, nobody is coming to save us. That's why regular people are starting to step up and wanting to come and do these kind of things. I most certainly, this wasn't my calling, if you will. I didn't think so. Like I say, I've done a lot of things, and I just decided to do it because the opportunity was there. And I felt like we needed somebody, a regular person, somebody that's really actually kind of been out here in the streets and been a victim, whose family's been impacted by police violence, to be able to go down here and try to change some of these policies and laws. So that's why, I was excited about it. I'm gonna still work on those things, but at the end of the day, only the state legislature, this is Washington, we can't do an initiative, but the state legislature is the way that we change the laws in Washington State.
You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B, right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.World Live, your South Seattle radio station. A conversation with KUN Salisbury, recent political candidate and comic book creator. You know what? I'm going to actually open up the phone line. If somebody just wants to, won't have that long for you to talk, but if somebody wants to come, like, hey, Kun, give him a shout out. We're kind of celebrating you right now. 206-290-9685. That's 206-290-9685. I'll say it again because I'm just throwing 206-290-U5, YOU5, 9685. So, Kun, I'm going to ask you here. We were only supposed to do this for 30 minutes, which means for me 27 minutes, because and there's so much I want to unpack here. Being that I'm the station manager, would you mind if we went a little over?
No problem, man. I'm actually at home today, so that's great.
So that because I know, hey, you've been busy, you're doing a number of different things. But there's a lot to, that just talking to you as well. I like I said, I want to make sure so you won't mind, we'll take a break at 27 and then we'll come back and we'll talk some more. And that way we don't have to feel like we're rushed.
Oh, great.
Okay. Well, I want to get back into Little Big Fella.
Right.
For a second here. The Adventures of Little Big Fella and the premiere issue. Let's talk about the part of this where you say, okay, this is my idea, and I'm going to take it from being an idea and a concept and turn it into a comic book.
Right. Yeah, it's
Now
a
you
lot
know
of
what
work,
you know
man.
what comes to mind for me is because you're from the same. So I'm thinking Bill Cosby and Fat Albert. You know what I mean? That's because that's what comes to mind when you because there aren't many
Yeah,
examples of this. But
it is.
tell us about that.
Well, you know what, and this is what I wanted to try to tell my son too along this journey, right? So just to be clear, and that's why it says comic book creator on the title here. I conceived this effort, and it is most certainly my idea, my product, and everything else. But I hired on a bunch of folks and worked with freelancers to be able to create this. I didn't draw and I most certainly didn't ink the characters. There's so much to creating a comic book. I worked with my man, Jeff Cheatham, who's a great author. He's got a couple of great books, and he does the urban book fair every year. And he helped, he's the main author. I basically kind of inform the story, right? And he helps flesh out the story. So, I employed a lot of different folks to help put this together. And the key is being able to take your idea, right, a vision that you have, and being able to articulate that to the people you're working with to bring your vision to fruition. And that's what we did here. And so, yeah, I just whiteboarded the whole thing, and then I recorded the story because the story was important to me. And I could just briefly tell you about the story. And what happens in the comic book in this particular one.
I'm not going to have you that tell me now because we're going to keep people in suspense and we're going to say.
Okay, so I'll tell you that after the break. So basically,
after the break.
Yeah. So basically, though, but just logistically, so there's so many elements to creating a product like this. And just to be clear, I didn't go to school for this, and I tell people this all the time: Google anything that you want to be able to do it. Right. And I just Googled everything. I said, well, I want to do a comic book. And I started Googling, and I got the size of a comic book, and then how much it would cost. And then I started looking up hashtags, comic book artists or graphic artists. And I started finding different people, and I liked their styles. And, so I just really kind of put that together through Google though. And I was able to kind of create this, and bring the movement together. The other part about it and why it took such a long time is you got to have your business straight, right? So many people that we know, Tony, they have a great idea and they just go and buy the website or they put up an Instagram account and that's their business, right? They don't go get a business license. They don't go get the trade name. They don't go get the trademark. Right, so I had to go to LegalZoom, right, and I actually got the federal trademark for this, right, which takes a lot of time, and and it's a fair amount of money to secure your trademark, and it takes a while because people have to be able to challenge your trademark, right? So it's patience as well, right? Because oftentimes people have such great ideas and they just want to get to it, they want to go, and you have to be able to. Like I didn't want to talk about this project until I had my trademark in hand, right? Even though I got the email from the federal, from the the trademark folks, I waited to get the certificate with the gold seal where it says that I own the trademark to the Adventures of Little Big Fella, right? But so it's just it's a real long process of creating something like this, but obviously it was worth it.
I overstand. We have as soon as I mentioned the phone lines would be open, phones started calling up. So if you're calling in right now and the line is busy, I mean, we can take phone calls, but we're not really efficient at it yet. But so we do have somebody on the line. If you're calling, we'll try and get you on too. You're probably getting a big signal. So I believe this is Harriet.
Yeah, this is Harriet.
Hello, Harriet.
Hey, Mama.
So you have something you'd like to say to Chukundi?
Yeah, I like to say congratulations to Chukundi Salisbury. for his creativity, for his follow through, for his stick to itiveness, for his passion, and for his energy. And I know it's going to be a success. And I bought the first one. I bought the first copy. I mean, I was right there in line. So what can I say?
Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to make sure we gave you high priority on getting on. So if there's anything else you want to say, if not, I'm gonna go to break real quick.
No, that's I'm good. I'm good. I just wanted to give a shout out to Chukundi. That's all.
Okay.
And to you, Tony, for doing a great job. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
that was.
This is the news on Rainier.
That was again. That was your mother.
Yeah, I mean, she's my biggest fan. I love it. And she was right there. And the best part about this, honestly, Tony, is she was there about 3 years ago, a little bit over 3 years ago, when I was at the whiteboard in my office drawing this whole thing out. And I talked about what was going to happen and what the story is. And then I talked about my business plan and where we really want to go with this comic book and how we want to affect community and to see it all unfold the way that I said it would, and we drew it up. It's really a great thing, and that's why she's excited. I'm excited.
All right. Well, when we come back from break, we are going to get an advance sneak preview of the comic book Lil Big Fella and some of the adventures. Now you'll have to get the comic book to get the whole thing, but we're going to get it directly from Kun. Right when we come back, you're going to tell us a few of the adventures. You're going to give us a little sneak peek, right?
Oh yeah. I can tune you into a bit.
All right, we will do that. We'll be back to talk more with Chukundi Salisbury. You're listening to Street Beat on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Rainier Avenue Radio.
We got the feeling now.
Yeah.
R&B, soul, funk, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. We give you all that and more on Star Time. Join me, Paul Pearson, for a 2-hour trip through the history of R&B. A new episode every week on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Come and get the feeling on Star Time on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
The NCAA's announcement of a college basketball start date led to a huge scramble as schools tried to fill out schedules altered by the coronavirus pandemic. According to Como News, instead of getting easier with time, the task of building schedules has become more difficult as the season start date nears. Travel is an issue. So is finding common testing protocols. Restrictions in every state all differ and constantly change with virus cases on the rise. The cancellation of several multi-team events left huge holes. Even sorting out officiating has presented challenges. And even with meticulous planning before the NCAA's announcement, teams had a tough time finding opponents. The season was pushed back, so games set for early November had to be postponed or dropped from the schedule. Lost games had to be replaced with new opponents, with a premium placed on regional schools since most teams don't want to fly during a pandemic.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Atlantic Street Center has been serving the children, youth, and families of the Seattle King County area since 1910. We partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not translating the lyrics of Boogie Oogie Oogie for bored Europeans, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Welcome back to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B, on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. In the words of Juan Cotto, your community station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio. Well, we're having a conversation with Chukundi Salisbury. Yes, that is Chukundi Salisbury, who is a recent political candidate for the 37th district. And also, recently, the news just broke, creator of a comic book, The Adventures of Lil Big Fella. And Chukundi has said that after the break, he's going to give us some insight into some of what these adventures are. I did ask people to call, and so I'm going to honor that. Then after this, we're not going to take any calls, just to let you know. But I want to take a call right now, and then we're going to get back into the show, and then we're going to go in uninterrupted. So I believe this is Deontay on the line.
It sure is.
Hey,
how y'all doing, brothers?
Hey, what's up, Deontay?
I
How
really
you
just had to
living?
call and just thank Chukundi, because one thing's for certain and two things for sure. When we talk about resilience and willpower, this brother is the one that has it. I've known Chukundi since I was a kid, and you've always been inclusive towards community. And I will always be grateful for you. You ran a darn good campaign, but just in the spaces of even Little Big Fella, I know you got more things to come. You will still be a true representation for community. So I definitely just wanted to just let you know how much I appreciate you. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for showing us what to do. It might appear that we fall down 7, but we stand up 8. And I just wanted to just let you know on this line how much I appreciate you and support you.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, resiliency is a great trait to have, and I appreciate it.
Can y'all hear me?
All right. Okay. Now, thanks, Deontay. I just had to do that, man, give people an opportunity. So the more time works out better. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now here it is. The Adventures of Lil Big Fella. This is a middle school student. This is geared towards that age group. The title is The Adventures of Lil Big Fella. What adventures is Lil Big Fella getting into in this premiere issue?
Well, you know what, and I'll just try to tell the story at a high. So first of all, it's a nice book. You can't really, I guess my filter's messing with it, but representation matters. It's a great book, and it's well illustrated. And what I'll say about the story in this particular piece, Lil Big Fella and his crew, he plays for the Beacon Hill Tigers at his school. And they have a co-ed basketball team in this particular book. And they are headed to the championship. And so they're headed to the championship, and they're getting ready to go play. And there's but one of the coaches has an altercation with a police officer. And I would say that the young people witness that, and they're committed to making things right. And throughout this story, there's a few twists. There's definitely a few twists, and I would say that they step up to the plate, and leadership comes out, and they come together as friends, and through this experience and this journey and the things that happen to them, and some of the adults in their lives, they bonds are tested. I can say that with conviction, and there's an element of accountability where the youth are holding the adults in their lives accountable. And what I can say is, obviously it's a children's book, so there is a happy ending. However, there are some challenges there. But and that's I don't want to give the whole story.
No,
away,
don't do that.
Yeah.
We just want to whet their appetite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so that's what I would say though, is that and we see it more than ever. I actually think this book is really prophetic. The story was written and conceived, like I said, almost 3 years ago. And when you read this book, things that happened this summer, right, with all of the protests and things that happened this summer, not only in Seattle with young people, but across the country with adults, and the actions they took, you would think that we just wrote this book just this summer. But actually, once you read it, you'll say, well, wow, this seems like this could have been based off of the summer of 2020. And it really wasn't. And you know, what I get from people, feedback from folks that have read the book, they oftentimes say, well, you know, one of the reasons why you were able to, because this is not an old story in our community. It is an old story. Like it's just like what happened this summer in our community. It really is just the reason why we had a lot of these protests and everything else is because it was filmed, right? But Black folks know that for years we didn't have things on film, and so there wasn't a way for us to be able to you know, be able to tell that story. But again, this story is 3 years old, but when you listen or when you read it, you will think that it came from the headlines from this summer. And so obviously this was a summer of action around here, regardless of you know, what side of things you ended up on. And so I can just tell you that it's a compelling story. It is an empowering story. And and like I said, the young people step up to the plate. Little Big Fella and his friends come together and make a stand and demand accountability from the adults in their lives. And it turns out in a good way.
Now that we've talked about it, we've given people, we've got people on the edge of the seats and saying, oh, so how can you get the comic book? How do you get a hold of it?
Yeah, so it's at lilbigfella.com. So LILBIGFELLA.com. And yeah, you can order there. One of the things I've been doing is selling a collector's item, a commemorative, you know, since this is my first comic book, where I sign it and you get a poster and some stickers and everything else. But most certainly the comic book is just available on its own by itself. So it sells on the website. The comic book on itself is $10. And if you want the, you know, the collector's edition with the posters and the stickers and the signed version and the numbered, you know, each one is numbered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get that,
each of the comic books or each of the posters,
you know,
is numbered. Each of the comic books or each of the posters.
Yeah. The collector's item. Yeah, well, you know, I feel as though it's a collector's item. Yeah. It's my first comic book.
And you know, so, I'm saying that, Kun, because there are people out there like me. I collect stuff like that. You know, I have movie posters from 1930, and the number is what legitimizes it as part of the collector's item.
And these are numbered. Yeah. So, and I'm not selling any more of them after we go through those numbers. That's it.
That's what makes it a collector's
you know,
item.
I most certainly will probably sign one for somebody, but it won't have that number on it.
Okay, man. Well, whatever it is, let me do this right now. If I can have some leverage, make sure put aside one of the, so that I can get that one, okay? Just during the pandemic, and it's easy, and we're both busy, but I got you on it. Just put one aside for me. I want one of the collector's item ones. Okay?
All right. Well, I got you. You know what? I'm glad that you gave us this extra time, though, Tony, because what I really wanted to talk about is, you know, I didn't do a comic book for the sake of selling comic books, right? I mean, obviously, it's a great tool. We can sell comic books. We can make money, right? But I could do that on a lot of things, right? The reason we had this comic book is I really want to be able to speak to social issues and be able to put together a curriculum around it. So I have some folks, some Black educators with deal, my frat brother Anthony Shoecraft and Dr. Keisha Scarlett and some others that work at Seattle Public Schools, really, because what we really want to do is use this as a tool around social and emotional learning, right? And we want to be able to have young people be able to talk about trauma, family relationships, their relationships with educators, their relationships with the authority figures and the police, relationships with each other, right? And all of that in a way where they are in fact represented, right? And you can see young people like themselves. So my end game with this product, Tony, is not necessarily to go platinum, if you will, selling comic books. It's really to be able to put this in a way where we can engage young people and have a curriculum around it to say, okay, well, this is what happened to Little Big Fella. Has anything like that ever happened to you or your family, right? And what happened? How did you feel about that, right? How did you resolve that? How did it make you feel? Exactly, right? And so there's a whole piece, and obviously I'm not I'm just the visionary on this piece. I'm not the educator, and so just like I pulled the artists together and the different writers to help me pull the piece together, I'm working with folks, who are experts, content experts, these educational folks who specialize in curriculum and specialize in especially Black male development. I don't know if you know our frat, Anthony Shoecraft. He's worked with the mayor's council on African American males, and they're running this whole program called the Kingmakers, where they've got different young African American males at different middle schools. So they're doing a lot of this work on the ground. And my end game with this piece obviously is to kind of speak to the reality of our youth today and the challenges that they face, right? I mean, and so just not particularly to this book, but many young people have, there's a duality, right? And I think we all face it, and especially a lot of people in some of the communities and circles we know, Tony, where we know somebody who is in fact a police officer, and then we know somebody that is probably living a lifestyle that they shouldn't, right? And we know all of these different people, and there's a duality of when do you, how do you carry yourself around folks, right? And then a lot of young people, I work for Seattle Parks. We've had shootings right in front of our right at Rainier Beach Community Center, right? So a young person got shot in the face. What was that, 2 years ago? And they're all middle school students and high school students, right? So where's the how do we deal with that, right? How do we talk about that, right? And so, I want to help develop tools to be able to help drive that conversation in a real way. And that's one of the things we learned when we were doing the African American Males Weekend, and we're going to bring that back next year, is that once you got all of these young men and their fathers out here on Orcas Island away from the city, and we were able to kind of ask questions that you hadn't asked before, you didn't feel safe to ask, right? And we would bring out SPD to talk to the kids. That was the first time a lot of them had ever seen a police officer in a sweatsuit, or in street clothes, and they could ask them questions like, well, how does this work, right? So again, our young people walk in a real fine line, and so I always want to be able to create tools to help folks engage, and I'm most certainly doing that. And so I could see us having, when I thought about this comic book, I could see it as something that we could have at the camp and have everybody read it, then come back around the campfire and talk about, like, okay, well, what happened and how did that make you feel, right? And what would you have done, right? And so that's what this book's about as well. So it's most certainly artistically engaging. The story is great, but there's a higher purpose. And why I'm involved is to really engage young people, and it's a tool, it's an on-ramp into their lives, right? Because kids like stuff like this, and it's a way for us as adults to be able to engage and help guide and actually learn from them as well.
You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, Tony B. We are live on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your South Seattle radio station, having a conversation with Chukundi Salisbury, recent political candidate, ran for the 37th Legislative District, Position 2, and comic book creator, Little Big Fella. And so we just, said, hey, let's just stretch this out. Kind of haven't talked to you for a while. We've both been busy. Let's catch up on the air. And so we're just letting the conversation unfold in the way that it does. Now, with that, you mentioned a couple things, and this brings on a significance related to what we're doing here. And so if you're unfamiliar, and you says, oh, frat, we're talking about fraternities. I bring this up because you've been hearing about Kamala Harris and Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and we belong to a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, and fraternal organizations, sorority organizations, play a role in what's going on, and you're hearing more about that now. And I'm certainly not saying any more or any less. Lots of things play a role, but you were proudly, and which is you should be Blue Phi, all the way that you were doing this connect for people, for you, because a lot of people may have seen you representing Blue Phi. And what is that? What does that mean?
Just right. That's a lot to unpack. But I guess what I would say, Tony, for those, first of all, folks that are in the African American community are more than familiar with, at least descendants of slave African American community are familiar with our 9 Greek lettered organizations.
The Divine
that were founded
Nine,
around
as they're called.
the turn of the century, most of them. I'm most certainly a member. Me and Tony here are members of Phi Beta Sigma. But I think one of the things that surprises people about our fraternal organizations is that they are in fact for life, right? Yeah. And it's not just something that you do in college. I am the social action director for our chapter right now, Epsilon Sigma. We do all kind of work here in the community, food drives at the QFC right there on Rainier. But it is a lifelong thing when you're part of one of the Panhellenic organizations in the African American community. And Kamala Harris, that's why her sorors, if you will, are so excited, because it's not just a college thing. They're out doing community service and all kinds of events and scholarships right now. And we most certainly are. The brothers of Phi Beta Sigma are as well. It's a thing. It's definitely something that you carry with you. It's not something that you just do in college. And we continue that legacy. Our organization was founded in 1914 on the campus of Howard University. And like I said, there's 9 other organizations as well that are legacy Black African American fraternal and sorority organizations. And I encourage people to learn about them all, but it's definitely not just kind of a flash in the pants type of thing. We do it for life. And that's why all of us are so excited about Vice President Kamala Harris, because she's in one of these organizations. And, I just can't be any more happier about it.
So what would you say to someone who was watching Spike Lee's movie and said, is this college life? Is this what fraternities are all about?
Well, you know what? I would say that, everybody has a take on things, but there's a reason why we've had these organizations, and they are foundational, and they really represent Black excellence and from their beginning. It's our tagline and motto is culture for service and service for humanity. Yeah. And most certainly there's hijinks and things that happen on campus and in the yard when you're in school, different, but as a whole, as international organizations, we are about service to our communities. And no matter whether you're Alpha, a Kappa, a Q, or a Sigma, or Iota, or a AKA, or Delta Sigma Theta, or Sigma Gamma Rho, or Zeta Phi Beta. All of those organizations are right now engaged in service to their community. They were out getting people out to vote. And we have a long legacy of adults who continue this service. The great John Lewis, who passed this year, was a brother of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And the creator of that tagline, we're looking to get into some good trouble, right? So like the great John Lewis, many of our civil rights icons were in Black fraternities. Reverend Martin Luther King was a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha, right? So I could go on and on, but I just encourage people, again, if you're not familiar with African American fraternities and sororities, look it up, and you'll wonder why these folks are so excited. It's definitely not just some college thing where, I was in a fraternity in college too. No, this is a lifelong thing that we will continue to the day we die, and just like John Lewis did.
Some folks might be saying, well, how did the conversation get over there? But I think they're enjoying it. My guest
Well, because
again,
we extended it so we could have these kind of conversations.
my guest again is Chukundi Salisbury, recent political candidate, comic book creator, and my fraternity brother. And we were all very proud of you. Lil Big Fella is what we're talking about. The Adventures of Lil Big Fella. The premiere issue is out now. And one more again, Kun, how can you get it? Where is it available?
Yeah, so it's available at lilbigfella.com, and that's LILBIGFELLA.com. And we've got a couple of things for sale there, the actual book, and then we've got the collector's item packet, the commemorative pack that includes a poster and some stickers and a signed, numbered copy of the premiere issue of The Adventures of Little Big Fella.
But however many of those you have one less because you're reserving one for me, right?
Facts. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
one
sir.
of the numbered ones. Okay. And I'm going to give you an opportunity for final words here. Can we went a little bit long? I want to share some information really quickly before I do that, though, so I make sure. On Friday, the Rainier Avenue Radio is hosting, again, as we're talking about these types of things that involve community and leadership, a debate for the presidency of the NAACP. And we've invited all three candidates to be here. Earlier, you can catch interviews that we did with all three candidates where they shared information about themselves, their background. There will be a debate on Friday where we'll be asking questions, and we'll have moderators. Those include Executive Director of the Urban League, Michelle Merriweather, former president of the NAACP, Carl Mack, and then also E. Lilly, strategic vice president. I don't have the exact title right, but he's also a fraternity brother, Nate Miles. And then in addition to that, we will have students from both college and high school who will be asking questions. And in particular, these particular times, I said particular a lot, these times that we're in, again, with unanticipated challenges at Rainier Avenue Radio, what we do is we share the resources that our community has and try to provide our community with information so that you can, we don't tell you what to think, but we try to provide you with the information so that you could decide and discern for yourself. And that takes place on November 21st. And so one of the things that we're drawing to is awareness to that is taking place. But if you want to find out more about who the candidates are and you have any questions, again, we will have this debate on Friday at 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So make sure and join us and find out about the leadership. And you get to have an impact on this leadership in your community. For those who step up and say, this is what I want to do. Again, my guest is Chukundi Salisbury, recent political candidate, speaking of, and comic book creator, a number of different things, Kun, a few of them that you shared with us. So what I'm going to do is we got a couple minutes left, man. And first of all, thank you for sharing with us. I know you've been busy, and I didn't know if you wanted to rehash this stuff or not. And I'm glad that we had a time to talk about the comic book. Then I'm also glad that I just got to catch up with you. And I want to give you a few minutes here just to share anything it is that you want to share about whatever. I'm not going to take any more phone calls. The phone is still ringing. But anything that you want to share with our audience right now.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Tony, for even having me on, man. I really do appreciate the opportunity. And what I would share with people is that, follow your dreams, man, and take opportunity when it's presented. This comic book is really all about that, and I'm just excited to be able to create something that's going to impact folks. Somebody sent me a picture tonight where they had got their comic book and they were cooking dinner, and their son was on the floor in the living room sketching and trying to draw the characters from the comic book. So it's just, I'm super excited about these kind of things. And again, for folks that, worried about the election, we're still going to work on all of these things. If you know me, I'm always be in the mix. But the one thing I can say for folks that want to talk about the 37th district and those things is that nobody is coming to save us. Okay, we need everybody engaged in watching and being a part of the political process in your community. Okay, and the reason why we're in the state that we're in now is because we elect people and we send them off and we don't talk to them for 2 or 4 years, and we wonder why things went haywire. We need people. It's a participatory process, and you get the results that you want by being engaged, right? So that's what I can say about the 37th district and all of that, and I'll most certainly be involved. But I really would like the support of the little big fella. The other piece that I would say, Tony, that I really want people to know about this comic book, again, it's really about the engagement. So if you're a part of an organization, or you're a teacher and you want to get something for your class, give me a call or send us an email, littlebigfellacomic@gmail.com, and the phone number's on the Facebook and all of that. But send us a message. There's actually a form if you're a part of an educational or a program. We most certainly want to be able to get you some books at whatever kind of reduced costs or scholarships or free or what have you, because this is a social engagement venture. It's not necessarily, I'm not trying to get rich off the comic book. I want to engage our young people and let folks see themselves. Let kids see themselves. Representation matters. So, while we continue to watch the Avengers and all of that, we definitely want to be able to see, I think our young people deserve to see themselves in the pages of books.
Let's get down with
that's
some
why we did it.
Let's get down with some little big fella. Coming up next, we've got Fresh Juice, hosted by D Money, Jeff Patron, and Taylor Hart. Tonight, Layshock, did I say that right? Layshock will be joining us live in the studio, and Sly De Silva will be calling in. They've also got some questions for listeners. So that's coming up right at 9 o'clock. Thanks again, my guest, Chukundi Salisbury. You've been listening to Street Beat with me, your host, Tony B. One more again, don't forget, 1 o'clock on Friday, our NAACP debate coming up, those who are running for president. And again, this is critical. This is your representation. You should know who the people are who are representing you. And be involved in that decision-making process as we enter into some uncertain times with some challenges that we know, and the ones that are going to be scariest are the unanticipated challenges. So thank you, Chukundi, for what you've done. I know you will continue to do it, whether you're elected or not. And we'll be back, and that's all the time I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.